in the dimly lit streets of Tokyo, tucked away in an old neighborhood where houses leaned close together and lanterns swayed with the wind, there once stood a small antique shop. Its wooden sign was faded, its windows coated with dust. Few people ever entered, for the shop carried an unsettling reputation. It was whispered that the owner collected objects. People no longer wanted objects that carried sorrow, anger, or pain. And in the darkest corner of that shop, hidden behind cracked shelves and faded scrolls, sat a doll. Not just any doll. This was Okiku's doll. The story begins in 1918 with a young boy named Eikichi Suzuki. He was 17 years old when he bought the doll for his little sister, Okiku. The doll had porcelain skin, black hair cut in a neat bob, and crimson lips painted into a delicate smile. Her kimono was embroidered with tiny red flowers, bright and cheerful against her pale body. Okiku adored the doll. She carried it everywhere, feeding it, dressing it, and even whispering secrets into its tiny ear. The doll became her constant companion, so much so that her family often joked that she loved it more than she loved them. But fate is cruel. Okiku fell ill with a sudden fever. No medicine could cure her, and within weeks, she was gone. Leaving her family in crushing grief, the doll remained in her room, resting on the small altar her parents built to honor her memory. They noticed something strange. The doll's hair, once neatly cut, began to grow, slowly, unevenly, but undeniably. Black strands that reached past her shoulders, tangled and lifelike at first. The family believed it was imagination, born of grief. But with each passing month, the doll's hair grew longer, and her once soft smile seemed to fade into something darker. Neighbors whispered that the spirit of little Okiku had not moved on. Instead, she had found a vessel, the doll. Soon, the family began to hear noises in the night. Tiny footsteps echoing across the wooden floorboards. Faint giggles drifting from their daughter's empty room. Sometimes, the doll was not where they left it. One night, Akichi swore he heard his sister's voice calling his name. When he opened his eyes, he saw the doll standing at the foot of his bed, her glassy eyes reflecting the moonlight. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Terrified, the family sought help from priests. The doll was placed inside a shrine at Meninji Temple in Hokkaido, where monks agreed to keep it safe. But safe is not the same as free. Even within the shrine, the doll's hair continued to grow. The monks began to cut it regularly, storing the strands in sacred boxes. They prayed daily to appease the spirit. Yet some nights they claimed to hear a child's voice in the temple halls. Visitors who came to see the doll described unsettling experiences. Some said her eyes followed them. Others swore her mouth shifted, curling into a faint frown. A few even claimed to hear a whisper in their ear, a soft childlike voice saying, "Stay with me." As decades passed, the legend grew darker. People who mocked the doll, who laughed at her story, often suffered misfortune afterward. Accidents, illness. Some never returned home at all. The temple became both a shrine and a warning. The monks allowed visitors, but always with caution. Do not anger her. Do not stare too long. And whatever you do, do not take her picture at night. One winter, many years later, a young photographer named Haruto traveled to Hokkaido. He had heard rumors of Okiku's doll and dismissed them as mere superstition. Haruto specialized in urban legends, exposing them as tricks of the mind. He was eager to prove this one false as well. When he arrived at the temple, the monks welcomed him but warned him firmly, "Respect the doll. She is not just wood and porcelain." Haruto smirked. To him, it was a perfect chance to capture photographs that would debunk the myth. He entered the shrine. The room was dim, lit only by candles. And there she was, the doll, sitting upright, her kimono pristine, her hair flowing down her back in long, uneven strands. Her glass eyes seemed deeper than he expected, almost wet, as though alive. He lifted his camera and snapped a picture. Click. The shutter echoed in the silence, but when he looked at the preview screen, his stomach clenched. In the photo, the doll was not sitting. She was standing, her head tilted slightly to the side, and her lips were curved into a faint grin. Haruto laughed nervously, convincing himself it was just the angle. He took another picture, clicked. This time, the doll's hand appeared, raised. Her fingers bent like claws. The photographer froze. The doll before him hadn't moved. She sat silently, her gaze fixed. But in the photograph, she was alive. That night, Haruto stayed in a nearby inn. He uploaded the photos onto his laptop, examining them frame by frame. The more he zoomed in, the worse it became. In every photo, the doll looked different. Sometimes her mouth was open, as if screaming. Sometimes her eyes were black voids. In one picture, she wasn't alone. Behind her stood the faint outline of a girl, her face blurred, but her long black hair unmistakable. At midnight, Haruto heard it. A child's laugh, high-pitched, playful, coming from his closet. His chest tightened. His breath quickened. Slowly, he stood, reaching for the closet door. He pulled it open. Empty, but when he turned back, his camera was on the floor. Its screen flickered, and on it was a live image, as though recording. The doll was in the room with him, standing right behind him. The innkeeper found Haruto the next morning, unconscious on the floor, his camera shattered beside him. When he awoke, he refused to speak of what he saw. He left Hokkaido that very day, abandoning his work as a photographer. The doll remained in the shrine, her hair still growing. To this day, Okiku's doll sits at Manenji Temple. Her hair, scientifically tested, is confirmed to be real human hair. Visitors still come, staring into her lifeless glass eyes, daring to take photographs despite the warnings. Some say, if you look at her long enough, you'll see her blink. Others swear they feel her tugging at their sleeves, like a child begging not to be left alone. And there are those who never stop hearing her voice after visiting, soft, childlike, whispering, "Stay with me, forever."